One busy morning, Zara, a personal assistant, is stuck in traffic on her way to meet her boss, the famous actor Chris Cole, at a restaurant. At the restaurant, Chris is talking to his girlfriend Ashley, while nervously waiting for Zara. In the car, Zara gets a text from Chris, telling her to hurry or she'll lose her job. She looks at the jewelry box on the seat and decides to run a red light. When she finally arrives, she bribes the host by promising to alert the paparazzi so he lets her in. While Chris talks to Ashley, Zara throws the jewelry box to him. Seconds later, Chris breaks up with Ashley, saying he'll be too busy with his next movie. He hands her the box, which holds a pair of diamond earrings, a gift he always gives to women he breaks up with. In the car, Chris scolds Zara for being late. Zara asks if he's upset because they still haven't found a writer for his movie script. Chris tells her to stop by Ashley's place to pick up his things and to be at his house at 8:30 tomorrow morning for a meeting. Meanwhile, Zara's mother, Brooke, asks her mother-in-law, Layla, for her opinion on Brooke's new book. Layla says she likes it because it shows Brooke is finally ready to move on after losing her husband, Charlie. That evening, Zara talks to her mother about her work issues, and Brooke reassures her, saying she's talented and needs to stand up for herself. Later, Zara gets a call from Chris, her boss, asking her to make a late-night run to the grocery store. He talks about how much he misses these simple trips, which he can't do now because of his fame. The next day, Zara meets her friend Stella, who now works as a closet organizer. Zara begs her to rewrite the script for Chris's movie. At 8:30 a.m. the following day, Zara goes to Chris's house but finds that he changed the gate code. She tries to explain that the meeting with the writer took longer than expected, but Chris demands a written apology. Frustrated, Zara climbs over the gate and storms inside. Mila, the housekeeper, sees her anger and suggests she take a deep breath, but Zara goes upstairs to confront Chris and announces she's quitting. Surprised, Chris says she can't quit because they start filming soon. Zara vents about how she's been his assistant for 2 years and still hasn't been trained to become an associate producer as promised. He says he can't focus on that right now, as he's stressed about the movie. Tired of his self-centered attitude, Zara walks out. Later, Zara decides not to tell her mother yet, as Brooke never wanted her to work for Chris. Her best friend Jeannie arrives to cheer her up. That evening, Zara finally tells her mother she quit her job, but Brooke points out that Zara has a habit of quitting, like with her writing and filmmaking classes. Zara gets upset and asks for advice on how to move forward in her career. Brooke tells her that only Zara can make that decision. Meanwhile, Chris distracts himself with video games, but remembers that the movie script is still bad. The next day, he visits Zara's mother's house, hoping to talk to Zara. When he walks in, Brooke thinks he's an intruder, but then realizes who he is. Since Zara isn't home, Chris asks if he can wait for her. Brooke mentions that Zara quit, and Chris explains that he wants to convince her to return. They end up having some drinks while they wait. Stella tells Zara that she has to quit her job now because things didn't work out. Zara says she's going to work things out with Chris and plans to find another producer for her screenplay. Meanwhile, Brooke asks Chris why he keeps making the Icarus Rush movies, even though he knows they're not great. Chris explains it's a franchise he's been a part of since he started acting. Since Chris doesn't know much about the Icarus myth, Brooke lends him a book to read. When he finds out she's a writer, he asks for her advice about the script, and she suggests bringing in a new writer. Chris notices a photo of Brooke's late husband, Charlie, and she shares that he passed away 11 years ago. Chris then opens up about losing his brother. Zara, meanwhile, talks to her grandmother on the phone, who advises her to stop comparing herself to her parents' successes at her age. In the house, Chris tells Brooke that he likes talking to her. Suddenly, they share a kiss and end up in her bedroom. Later, Zara comes home and finds her mother and Chris together. In her rush to leave, Zara accidentally runs into a wall and ends up at the clinic. She confronts them about what happened, and both Chris and Brooke assure her it was just physical attraction, nothing more. In the examining room, Zara watches as the doctor pays more attention to Chris than to her, which frustrates her. Hours later, Chris tells Zara he came over to offer her an associate producer job. Zara feels uncomfortable accepting it, as it seems like she's only getting the position because of what happened between him and her mother. She agrees to take the job, but only if he promises never to be involved with Brooke again. Brooke asks her daughter if they can talk about what happened, but Zara just goes to her room. The next day, during filming, Chris asks Zara if she fixed the script, and she tells him she hired Stella. After the shoot, Chris says he'll read the script changes that night. Meanwhile, Brooke gets a message from Chris inviting her to dinner. Though she's unsure, he insists he'll make the reservation, hoping she'll change her mind. Later, she tries on dresses in front of the mirror. At the restaurant, Brooke realizes Chris rented the whole place just for them. Over dinner, they talk about their pasts and the people they've lost. When Brooke mentions that Zara doesn't know about them, they both agree to never be involved with each other again. After dinner, Chris takes her for a walk on the studio lot. They end up trying on costumes, and Chris asks what Brooke plans to write next. She tells him he's never read her work, but he surprises her by quoting lines from her books, revealing he has. Later, Zara asks her mother where she's been. Brooke admits she went to dinner with Chris to talk about what happened. She insists Chris is more than what people think. Zara disagrees, and when she asks if they just had dinner, Brooke lies and says yes. That night, Brooke calls Layla and admits she feels guilty about lying to Zara. Layla reassures her that it's okay and she deserves to live a little. Meanwhile, Zara calls Jeannie and expresses concerns about her mother's relationship with Chris. She's worried it will end badly, like with his past lovers. For the next few days, Brooke secretly spends time with Chris at his beach house. On the next shooting day, Zara pretends to translate the French director's notes for Chris, subtly reminding him of how badly he's treated women in the past. After the shoot, the associate producer asks Chris if he's bringing someone to the event that evening. He says yes, but doesn't say who. He also mentions that the director wants to hire a different writer because they didn't like Stella's changes. Zara and Jeannie run into Brooke by the door. Brooke seems in a hurry to leave. Later, Zara wonders why Chris didn't consult her about the new writer, even though she's the associate producer. Jeannie reassures her that she'll still get credit for the movie and that this is a great start to her career. Jeannie talks to Zara about her problems with her boyfriend, Malcolm. While in her mother's bedroom, Zara finds a copy of the movie script on the side table. Together, the friends decide to sneak into the gala with help from Chris's publicist, Jesse. At the event, Zara spots her mother and Chris kissing in a corner and calls them out. Embarrassed, Brooke apologizes, saying she was planning to tell Zara everything. When Chris steps away, Brooke tries to explain to Zara. However, Zara tells her that she's making a mistake, as everyone knows Chris only uses women. Brooke admits that she's starting to feel something she hasn't felt for years, making Zara even angrier. Zara explains that she doesn't know what it's like to be the daughter of a successful writer. She also reveals that Chris picked her over Stella to rewrite the script, which would have been a big career opportunity. Brooke says she didn't know about Stella when she agreed to rewrite the script. Zara insists that her mother needs to end things with Chris, or she'll move out. When Brooke suggests that maybe Zara moving in wasn't a good idea, Zara storms off in frustration. Later, Zara spends the night at Jeannie and Malcolm's apartment. Meanwhile, Brooke tells Malcolm that she'll be spending the holidays at Layla's house to fix things with Zara. As they say goodbye, Chris accidentally tells Brooke that he loves her. The next day, Jeannie agrees that it's strange that Zara's mother and boss are together. Malcolm, however, believes their relationship shouldn't affect Zara. When Jeannie asks about their holiday plans, Malcolm mentions he might visit his parents in Chicago, which makes Jeannie react unexpectedly. Meanwhile, Layla tells Brooke that if she wants Chris to visit, she should call him herself. Layla also offers to talk to Zara. When Zara arrives, Layla tries to convince her that it's okay for her mother to have some fun. Just then, they hear a car outside and Zara sees Chris. Layla admits that it was her idea to bring him, as she wants to meet him and see what he's like. In the following days, Zara softens, especially after seeing how happy her mother is with Chris. One night, Zara overhears Brooke telling Layla that she and Charlie were having serious issues before his diagnosis. Zara realizes her mother is falling for Chris, but is also afraid of being hurt. On Christmas morning, Chris gives Zara a canvas with "Associate Producer" written on it, which she appreciates. Then, Brooke opens her gift to find that Chris had collected all her published essays and short stories and put them in a hardbound book. Later, as Zara is loading luggage into Chris's house, she discovers a jewelry box with diamond earrings, the same type he gave to other women before breaking up with them. When they arrive at the house, Zara confronts Chris and tells her mother that he always gives women the same earrings when he's about to end things. She warns that he's already bought a pair for Brooke. Chris tries to explain that the earrings were meant to be a gift before he thought of giving her a book instead. When Zara asks her mother if Chris took her to the studio lot on a date, Brooke realizes he's done this with other women before. Shocked, she tells Chris to leave. Zara admits that she only wanted to expose Chris for who he really is, but instead of being grateful, her mother says the way Zara handled it wasn't ideal. Later, Zara goes to Jeannie's place to vent, only to learn that she and Malcolm broke up 10 days ago. Jeannie says she tried to warn Zara about their problems, but Zara never listened. She also tells Zara she's tired of her always making everything about herself and not recognizing that others have their own issues. With no place else to go, Zara stays at Mila's for a while. On New Year's Eve, Zara decides to make things right with Jeannie. She gets a text from her mother, and Zara responds with, "I love you." The next day on set, Zara finds Chris in his trailer, feeling down. He says he doesn't deserve to play good guy roles because he's a bad person. Zara reassures him that he isn't bad, though he does make mistakes. Chris asks if his mother hates him, and Zara tells him she doesn't, but she's busy preparing to teach at Princeton next semester. He swears he didn't buy the earrings to break up with Brooke, but out of habit, since he tends to run away from good things. He explains he got the idea for the book because he knew Brooke would love it, and he forgot the earrings were still in his bag. After hearing his side, Zara apologizes for the way she handled things. Later, Zara tells Brooke that she's the most supportive mother, who never asks for anything in return. She realizes that her mother's happiness doesn't take anything away from her, and she deserves to live her life. When Zara mentions Chris, her mother says that chapter is over and it's time to move on. The next day, Zara takes Chris to the grocery store, remembering how he once said he hasn't been to one in years. A few minutes later, Brooke arrives with Layla, who mentions that she needs a special type of melon only found at this store. Eventually, Chris and Brooke bump into each other in the produce section and realize that Zara set up the meeting. Zara apologizes for everything and tells them she believes they deserve a real chance at a relationship. After she leaves, Chris tells Brooke that meeting her made him realize how much he takes people for granted. Brooke expresses concern about things not working out, but Chris reassures her that they haven't even started yet. They share a kiss as Zara activates the misters, creating a fog around them. Outside, Layla and Zara discuss their plans, which are going well. 1 year later, Brooke does a live reading of her new book, while Zara has risen in the ranks as a film producer at Chris's company. After a brief chat in Zara's office, they agree to meet for dinner later, hinting that Chris and Brooke's relationship is thriving.
Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and stay connected with us.